I never planned to sleep in my car. The first night I told myself it was temporary, just until I saved enough for a deposit, just until Aunt Linda stopped raising the rent, just until Mom finally called back. But weeks passed, classes got harder, and I found myself choosing between gas money and textbooks, heat and dinner. Meanwhile, my cousins, Tyler and Madison, rolled up to school in their brand new Teslas, laughing when they spotted me refilling coffee at the gas station where I worked the night shift. They had no idea that after clocking out at 2 a.m., I parked behind an old laundromat, curled up in the driver's seat, and prayed Chicago wouldn't freeze me to death. My name is Avery Carter, and I thought no one knew. But someone was watching. When my rich uncle, Ethan Carter, finally learned the truth, he didn't just save me. He changed everything. I used to think my life fell apart the day my dad died. Turns out that was just the prelude. I was 16 when the doctors finally stopped pretending there was hope. Dad had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and by the end he was so thin his wedding ring slid off without resistance. But even then he still cracked jokes. "Avery, don't let your mom's cooking kill you before I get back," he said the last time they rolled him into the hospital. He never came back. Mom cried for 3 weeks straight. Or that's what I thought. Then she stopped cooking, stopped talking, stopped seeing me at all. And 2 months later, she started dating a man named Derek Hamilton. Real estate money. Shiny watches. Teeth so white they looked photoshopped. One night I overheard her on the phone, whispering like a teenager. "He makes me feel alive again, Lisa." Alive? I was barely breathing. By spring they were engaged. Engaged? To who? I asked when she shoved a garment bag into my arms. "To Derek." "And that's your dress for the wedding," she said, smiling like we were sharing a moment. I unzipped it. Peach chiffon lace straps, clearly expensive. "Wait, I'm a bridesmaid?" "Junior bridesmaid," she corrected, already walking out of the room. "And pack your things. You'll stay with Aunt Linda in Chicago until we settle everything." Took me a second to process. Wait, stay with Linda? As in move. Mom didn't look back. "You'll be better off there." Better off. Right. Aunt Linda lived in a mansion with glossy floors, chandeliers, and a marble staircase that echoed every step like it was judging me. Her kids, Tyler and Madison, used to play tag with me when we were little. Now they just stared. Tyler leaned against the kitchen counter, sipping a protein shake. "So you're actually living here now?" he asked. "Yes," I muttered, hugging my duffel bag. Madison scoffed. "Guess Mom forgot to mention we don't run a shelter." Aunt Linda just smiled tightly and tapped her nails on the counter. "You'll be responsible for your own expenses," she said. "Rent is due on the 1st. "Rent? I'm still in high school." She shrugged. "Independence builds character." Tyler smirked. "Yeah, Avery. Build some character." That night I lay awake in the tiny basement room. Unfinished walls, a single mattress, and a vent that rattled every time the heater came on. Upstairs I could hear laughter, clinking glasses, a life I wasn't invited to. Dad was gone. Mom replaced me. And I was no longer family, just an inconvenience no one wanted to deal with. That was the first night I realized something frightening. If I didn't save myself, no one would. If I thought Aunt Linda's house would eventually start feeling like home, I was wrong. By the second week, it was clear I wasn't family, I was a tenant. A cheap one. One morning, Aunt Linda knocked on my basement door without waiting for me to answer. She handed me an envelope. "Your rent. Utilities included. Due Friday." I stared at the paper. $600? For this room. She folded her arms. "It's an unfinished storage room. It has a door and heat. That's more than some people have. Be grateful." The door shut before I could speak. Upstairs I heard Madison laugh. School wasn't any better. While I took the bus in the freezing wind, Tyler pulled up in a brand new silver Tesla. He got out, tossed his keys to a friend and spotted me. "Oh look, it's Basement Barbie," he announced loud enough for everyone to hear. "Did you crawl out from the furnace or whatever?" Madison chimed in, flipping her blonde hair. "Don't be mean, Ty. Maybe she's working on a cosplay, poor girl 3. Their friends erupted in laughter. I tightened my grip on my backpack and walked past. If I cried, they'd win. If I reacted, they'd push harder. But ignoring them didn't make it stop. At lunch I sat alone. In gym class I changed in the bathroom stall. And every night I went home to a room with concrete walls that smelled like dust and mildew. By the third month things got worse. I came home from school one day to find my mattress soaked. Tyler was upstairs laughing with friends. "Oh, that? We spilled something. Our bad," he called out, completely unbothered. "What did you spill?" I asked, voice shaking. Madison appeared from behind him, smiling smugly. "Maybe you should invest in waterproof bedding. Just a suggestion." When I checked the laundry sink, the smell hit me instantly. Energy drink mixed with beer. They'd done it on purpose. Aunt Linda walked by, barely glancing. "Please keep the noise down." "That's it," I shouted. "They ruined my bed." Linda stared at me coolly. "If you don't like how things are run here, feel free to leave. You're not obligated to stay." Tyler muttered under his breath. "Actually, please leave." I froze. They wanted me gone. And honestly, I wanted to be gone too. That night, I sat on the cold floor with my damp bedding piled beside me, scrolling through job listings on my cracked phone. Gas stations. Diners. Overnight stocking. Laundromats. Anything that hired teens and paid under the table. Rent was due in 5 days. Food wasn't free. Textbooks weren't free. And Mom still hadn't called, not once. Her last message was a selfie on a yacht with Derek, captioned, "Healing. Finally happy." I stared at the picture until my vision blurred, then shut off my screen and whispered to the empty room, "Fine. I'll survive without you." That was the night I applied to 4 jobs. Not because I was ambitious, but because no one was coming to save me. Not yet. I got my first job 2 days after applying. Well, technically 2 jobs. The laundromat hired me for the midnight to 6 a.m. shift, cash under the table, no paperwork, no questions. The manager, Jerry, glanced at me for maybe 2 seconds before tossing me a bundle of keys and walking away. "You're too young for nights," he said. "I won't complain about the pay." He paused, then shrugged. "Be here tomorrow. Don't fall asleep on the dryers." That was my onboarding. The second job came the next week, Quickmart, a gas station near school. I worked there from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., right after classes ended. Between both jobs, sleep wasn't scheduled, it was stolen. My life turned into a loop. 6:30 a.m. wake up. 7:10 a.m. bus to school. 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. classes. 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. gas station. Midnight 6:00 a.m. laundromat. Sleep whenever I didn't collapse first. I did homework in bathroom stalls on the bus or leaning against vending machines at 3 a.m. My body ran on caffeine and panic. I wasn't living. I was surviving. Barely. And of course Tyler and Madison found out. The first time they saw me behind the counter at Quickmart, Madison stared like I'd crawled up from a sewer. "Oh my God, she works here," she announced to the entire store like it was breaking news. I forced a smile. "Can I help you with something?" Tyler leaned on the counter, smirking. "Yeah, can you ring up a life upgrade? Looks like you need one." Their friends laughed. I swallowed the lump in my throat and scanned their junk food. They made a mess on purpose on the way out. I cleaned it in silence. At the laundromat, things got worse. One night at 1 a.m., Tyler showed up with 3 of his friends. They shoved quarters into the machines until they jammed, ripped open detergent packets, and sprinkled them like confetti. "Oops," he said, not even pretending it was accidental. "Maybe try cleaning that. It's kinda your thing, right?" Madison recorded me mopping, zooming in on my name tag. Her video caption read, "Family's little housemaid." Comments poured in before I even finished the shift. That was the night I learned humiliation can be loud and silent at the same time. School didn't give me a break either. Someone taped a handwritten label to my locker. "Washer girl." A kid dropped quarters onto my desk during English class. "For tonight," he whispered. I smiled like it didn't hurt, then spent lunch in the library bathroom trying not to cry. Eventually, my body started failing. I fainted in chemistry class. Teachers told me I looked pale. Friends, well, I didn't have those, just stared. The school nurse asked if everything was okay at home. I lied. And then came the breaking point. One night I walked into my room and froze. Everything was torn apart. Clothes thrown everywhere, notebooks ripped, blankets on the floor. My teddy bear, the one thing I kept from my dad, was sliced open. My hidden savings were gone. Tyler stood at the top of the stairs, arms folded. Looking for something? That was all my money, I whispered. He shrugged. Maybe don't store cash in stuffed animals. Just a thought. Aunt Linda appeared behind him, completely unfazed. If you're going to be dramatic about every inconvenience, perhaps this arrangement isn't working out. I realized then it wasn't an accident. They wanted me to break. They wanted me gone. Maybe they succeeded. Because that night, as I swept up stuffing from the floor, I had only one clear thought. I need to leave. Even if I have nowhere to go. Leaving wasn't dramatic. I didn't slam doors or make some grand speech. I packed after everyone went to sleep. 2 hoodies, my textbooks, a blanket that still smelled faintly like laundry detergent from the laundromat, and the shredded teddy bear I'd stitched back together with shaking hands. I stood at the foot of the stairs for a full minute, staring at the closed kitchen door, listening to the quiet hum of a house that never felt like mine. No one stopped me. No one even noticed. I slipped out through the side door, got into my old Toyota, rust along the wheel wells, cracked dashboard, one working window, and drove. The city lights blurred through my windshield like they were crying for me because I couldn't. My plan was temporary. Just a few nights. Just until I saved enough. Just until something changed. Those lies kept me sane. The first night was almost peaceful. I parked behind the laundromat, security cameras, familiar lights, and a back door I had keys to. I reclined the seat all the way back, wrapped myself in layers and told myself it was fine. I had shelter. I had a job. I had school. I repeated that until I fell asleep. When the morning sun woke me, my neck was stiff, but for a moment I felt free. No Tyler. No Madison. No Aunt Linda's icy voice. Just me. Then reality sank in and freedom started to feel like a sentence. Nights got harder fast. Chicago winter doesn't care about pride or resilience. The temperature dropped below freezing the second week. My breath fogged inside the car. The engine barely started. I tried running the heat in short bursts to save gas, but the battery couldn't handle it. 1:03 a.m. Shift. Jerry noticed the frost on my jacket. You walking here? He asked. No. I just get cold on breaks, I replied. He looked like he wanted to ask more but didn't. People only ask when they want responsibility. Jerry didn't. Sometimes that was a relief. Reality cracked when someone recognized me. During a shift at Quick Mart, a girl from school walked in scrolling through TikTok. She stopped mid-step, staring at her phone. Oh my God, is this you? She turned the screen toward me. There I was, grainy footage filmed from across the street, sleeping in the back seat, frost on the window, blanket pulled over my face. Caption: My cousin the homeless princess. Posted by Madison. My chest caved in. The girl laughed. Is it like a challenge? Or are you actually homeless? I whispered. Can I ring you up? She smirked, tapped her card and walked out. I held myself together long enough to finish the shift. Then I sat in my car behind the laundromat and screamed into the steering wheel until my voice broke. And then came the night I almost didn't wake up. It was one of the coldest nights of the year, wind sharp enough to strip skin. The laundromat was closed for repairs, so I had no access to heat. My phone died. Gas was low. My breath felt thick like breathing through ice. I curled into a ball beneath every piece of clothing I owned, hands shoved under my thighs for warmth. Just stay awake. Just until morning. I must have drifted off. I woke to someone knocking on the window, firm, urgent. I blinked through ice crystals forming along the glass and saw a tall silhouette in a wool coat, snow swirling around him like static. I lowered the window an inch, cold air slicing my face. Avery, a man's voice said. I blinked again, heart stuttering. Uncle Ethan? He exhaled, relief and anger tangled in the same breath. Get out of the car, he said. Right now. I wanted to argue, to pretend I was fine. But when I pushed the door open, my knees buckled. He caught me before I hit the ground. We're talking inside, he said, voice low. Not out here. Not like this. He wasn't asking. And that was the moment everything shifted. Not because he found me, but because someone finally recognized me, not as a burden, not as a joke, but as a person worth saving. I don't fully remember walking inside. One minute I was freezing in my car. The next I was wrapped in a heavy wool coat that definitely wasn't mine, being half dragged, half guided up a metal staircase behind the laundromat. The door opened into a small office, dim, quiet, warm. A space I'd never noticed even though I worked here for months. A desk. A minibar fridge. A coffee maker. A couch that looked like it belonged in a therapist's office. It felt lived in, private, like someone's second home. Uncle Ethan shut the door behind us. "Sit," he said. His voice wasn't angry. It was controlled. Too controlled. I sank onto the couch, shivering violently as feeling returned to my fingers. Ethan poured coffee into a mug, set it in front of me, then stood with his arms crossed, watching me like he was trying to understand a puzzle. "How long?" he asked. The question hit harder than the cold ever could. "A few weeks." "Avery," he said, jaw tightening, "don't lie to me." I stared into the coffee. 3 months. He closed his eyes like he was physically restraining himself. "Why didn't you ask for help?" A bitter laugh slipped out. Who was I supposed to ask? Mom. She's too busy taking pictures on yachts. Aunt Linda? She charges rent to breathe her air. He didn't deny it. Didn't defend anyone. Just stood there silent. I finally looked up. "Did you follow me?" "That SUV." "Yes," he said before I finished. "I saw you on the security cameras." I didn't want to intervene until I understood what was happening. His gaze darkened. "I did not expect to find you like that." He sat down across from me and his voice softened. "I knew you were struggling. I didn't know you were freezing to death in a parking lot." I swallowed hard. It wasn't supposed to be permanent. He leaned back, studying me. "You sound like your father." That sentence felt like a punch. I tightened my grip on the mug. "What do you mean?" Ethan walked to a filing cabinet, pulled out a dusty envelope, and tossed it onto the coffee table. Inside were old photographs, grainy, sun-faded. 2 teenage boys sitting in the back of a van eating beans from a can. One smiling, skinny, familiar in a way that hurt. "That's your dad," he said. "And that's me." I blinked. "You were homeless?" "We were broke. Worked odd jobs, slept in cars anywhere we could. Your dad took a scholarship and went to school. I stayed, saved money, bought this laundromat. That was the first property." He tapped the wall like the building itself was proof. "He never told you?" I shook my head. My throat felt tight. Ethan continued, voice lower now. Not lecturing, just remembering. "He wasn't weak, Avery. He fought. Harder than anyone. He didn't want you to grow up thinking life owed you anything." I stared at the photo again, the younger version of my father laughing despite everything. "So why didn't he tell me?" "Because he wanted you to be proud of your story, not live in the shadow of his." That broke something open inside me. Then Ethan slid a key across the table. "What's this?" I asked. "For the studio upstairs. Full kitchen. Bathroom. Heat. It's yours." I pushed it back toward him. "I don't want charity." His expression sharpened. "This isn't charity. It's an investment." "In what?" "In you." I froze. "You worked 2 jobs without complaining. You fixed machines my employees couldn't. You kept going when anyone else would have quit." His voice lowered, firm, deliberate. "You have your father's grit. I'm not rewarding struggle. I'm acknowledging potential." I hesitated, staring at the key again. "Place to sleep. A place to exist." "Avery, take it." I did. And for the first time in months my hand stopped shaking. But that night before I slept he added one more thing. "Your dad made me promise 2 things before he died," Ethan said quietly. I turned, heart pounding. "One, look out for you. Not protect you. Look out. And the second? To give you help when you earned it, not when you asked." He looked at me with tired, honest eyes. "And tonight, Avery, you've earned it." I didn't respond. I couldn't. I just stood there holding the key like it was the first real thing I'd owned in a long time. That night I slept in a real bed. And for the first time in months I didn't dream about running. I dreamed about becoming someone my dad would recognize. Moving into the studio above the laundromat didn't magically fix everything, but it felt like breathing after months underwater. I had heat, a bed, a lock that only I had the key to. For 3 days, I barely left the apartment except for work and classes. I didn't tell anyone. Not Aunt Linda, not Tyler, not Madison. Especially not Mom. But news travels fast in rich families. It started with 14 missed calls. MOM, 8:42 a.m. Avery, call me back. MOM, 10:17 a.m. What is going on? Your aunt says you disappeared. MOM, 1:02 p.m. This is serious. Derek and I are worried. Worried. Now they were worried. I ignored them. The 5th day they stopped calling. The 6th day they arrived in person. I heard the knock during my lunch break. 3 sharp bangs against the studio door, loud enough to shake the frame. I opened it a crack. Mom stood there in a tailored cream pantsuit, hair perfectly curled, makeup flawless. Derek hovered behind her, wearing a Rolex and discomfort like cologne. Mom's eyes scanned the tiny apartment, 1 bed, textbooks stacked by the sink, a space heater humming in the corner. This is where you've been? She asked, voice tight. I crossed my arms. What do you want? She stepped inside without waiting for permission, heels clicking on the laminate floor. This isn't safe. You should have told me you were struggling. I laughed bitterly. When? Before the wedding posts or after the yacht selfies? Derek shut the door behind him. Mom took a breath, smoothing her blouse like she was preparing for a speech. We've heard things about you and Ethan, she said carefully. My stomach dropped. What things? That you're working here. Spending a lot of time with him. Living in his property. She raised her brows. It looks intentional, Avery. I stared at her. Intentional. She lowered her voice like sharing gossip. It's smart, honestly. Getting close to him like this. Positioning yourself for the future. My blood ran cold. You think I'm trying to get his money? Mom gave me a pitying smile, the kind people give shelter dogs. Avery, sweetheart, you're young. It's fine if you're using the opportunity. Just be honest with us. I stepped back. You don't care where I've been sleeping. You care who might inherit what. Derek finally spoke, voice low and patronizing. We just don't want you manipulating family relationships for financial gain. I stared at him. I was sleeping in a car behind a laundromat, Derek. The manipulation was not exactly part of the plan. Mom scoffed. You're exaggerating. My voice cracked. Check my hospital records from when I got sick sleeping out there. Check the pay stubs. Check the nights I worked until 6 a.m. and went straight to school. Silence. Mom's eyes darted away first. Then she made the mistake that broke whatever was left between us. Your father would never approve of you living like this, she said sharply. He wanted better for you. He wanted you to be someone. I felt something snap cleanly like a bone breaking. He did want me to be someone, I said softly. Someone who earned her future, not married into it. Mom flinched. Derek stepped forward again. We came here to help you. A friend of mine runs a boarding program in Switzerland. No. He blinked. Excuse me. No, my voice was steady, cold. You don't get to abandon me, and then swoop in because you're afraid I might get something you think belongs to you. Mom's expression twisted. I was married to your father. If anyone deserves part of Marcus's business. You left Dad's life behind the moment you took off the ring. Her voice surged. I was grieving. You were upgrading. That silence was different this time, raw, exposed. I walked to the door and opened it. Go home. Mom's eyes glistened, but not with remorse, resentment. You'll regret speaking to me like this. No, I said. I regret waiting this long. She stormed past me. Derek lingered at the doorway. You're making a mistake. I met his gaze. This time it's mine to make. He left without another word. I leaned against the door after it closed, shaking so hard I could barely stand. Through the thin walls, I heard Mom's voice as they reached the stairs, tight and furious. She thinks she's clever. That little gold digger is going to try to take everything. I sank to the floor. Not because her words hurt, but because for the first time I understood she never really saw me at all. Not as a daughter. Just as a threat. It was quiet for a week after Mom's visit, too quiet. No late-night knocks. No calls. No texts. I focused on work, school, and finally sleeping in a real bed. For the first time in months, life felt manageable. Not good, but survivable. Then Michael showed up at the laundromat looking like he'd seen a ghost. It was 11:47 p.m., just before my shift started. The automatic door slid open, and he rushed in wearing slippers, hair messy, face pale. "Avery," he gasped. "You need to see this." I froze. "What are you doing here?" He shoved an iPad into my hands. Aunt Linda's iPad. The lock screen showed a notification. "Everything's ready for next week. Lisa, baby, we're finally going to be free." My stomach dropped. "Derek," I whispered. Michael nodded, eyes glassy. I opened the messages. I wish I hadn't. With trembling fingers I scrolled. There were emails, hotel confirmations, transfer receipts, 2 names signed repeatedly. Lisa Harrison. Derek Hamilton. They'd been talking for months. About money. About getting rid of loose ends. About disappearing. And worst, multiple bank transfers totaling over $900,000 to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. "They were stealing from Uncle Ethan," I whispered. Michael swallowed hard. "Not just him. From Mom's charity events. From the business. From me and Madison's college fund." He wiped his face with his sleeve. "She never even planned to take us with her." For once he didn't sound cruel. He sounded broken. Like a kid realizing the villain wasn't the class bully, but his own mother. I sat down hard on the folding table. "This is federal crime level stuff." Michael nodded. "Uncle Ethan needs to see this." We called him. He arrived in 6 minutes. He appeared in the doorway like a storm, coat half-buttoned, hair disheveled, jaw clenched. He snatched the iPad from my hands, eyes scanning rapidly. His face didn't change. He just exhaled. I'd never seen a quiet kind of fury like that. "Get dressed," he said. "Both of you. We're leaving." "Where?" I asked. "To end this." The confrontation happened at Michael's 18th birthday party. Aunt Linda had planned a massive backyard event, caterers, a DJ, rented lights, kids from private schools pulling up in luxury SUVs. She greeted guests with champagne and fake affection, completely unaware her entire world was minutes away from burning down. Mom and Derek arrived early, holding hands like a perfect couple. Derek carried a giant wrapped present. My blood boiled. I stood beside Ethan near the patio doors while he observed quietly, arms crossed, expression unreadable. He wasn't here to fight. He was here to destroy. At exactly 4:13 p.m., his lawyer arrived, gray suit, briefcase, stern expression. Aunt Linda noticed him and frowned. "Oh, Marcus, darling, business today?" "Really?" Ethan nodded to the lawyer. "Living room. Now." Something in his tone made people move. Guests shuffled out. The music shut off. Silence swallowed the house. Everyone gathered, Aunt Linda, Derek, my mom, Tyler, Madison, even me and Michael. The lawyer opened his case and spread documents across the coffee table. Bank statements, wire transfers, signed invoices, screenshots of messages. Then he pressed play on an audio recording. Derek's voice filled the room. "Move the money tonight. Once Marcus signs off on the quarterly report, we're clear. We'll fly out Sunday, new passports, fresh accounts, no loose ends." Aunt Linda's voice followed, laughing softly. "He'll never see it coming. He trusts me. He always has." Mom gasped like someone punched her. "Derek," she choked. "What is this? What have you done?" Derek turned pale. That's fake. It's edited." Ethan slammed a folder shut so hard the table shook. "It's over." 2 FBI agents stepped forward from the hallway, badges raised. "Lisa Harrison, Derek Hamilton, you're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to defraud a federal business." Aunt Linda stumbled back, eyes wide. "You set me up." "You?" "No," Ethan said coldly. "I trusted you. And you sold me." Derek tried to grab Mom's hand. "Baby, I can explain." She jerked away like he was poison. "You used me," she screamed. "You used everyone." Agents cuffed them. Derek shouted. Aunt Linda sobbed. Tyler backed into a wall, face white. Madison slid to the floor crying. And I just stood frozen, watching the destruction unfold. For months I thought I was the one falling apart. Turns out I was just the first piece in a collapsing empire. But what hit hardest wasn't the arrest. As the agents pulled them through the living room, Aunt Linda didn't look at her kids. Not once. Not even a goodbye. That silence told me everything. She never planned to come back. When the door finally shut and the police cars faded down the street, Ethan turned to me. "To survive what you did," he said quietly, "and to still care? Your father would be proud." I swallowed hard. For the first time I believed him. The house felt hollow after the arrests. No music, no laughing, no glittering guests posing for Instagram stories. Just silence and the faint smell of catered food turning cold on porcelain plates. I stood beside the living room window, watching police lights fade into the distance while Madison sobbed quietly on the couch, makeup streaking down her face. Tyler sat on the floor, knees pulled up, staring at nothing. For the first time, neither of them looked rich or cruel. Just human. And lost. Michael turned to me, voice small. "What do we do now?" I didn't know how to answer, so I didn't. I just sat beside him and let him cry. Because even if they'd hurt me, betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from the people you love. And they just lost their mother. The next weeks were chaos. The scandal hit the news. Local businesswoman and real estate investor arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. Reporters staked out the house. Lawyers called non-stop. Social workers came to evaluate the situation for the kids, even though Tyler was nearly an adult. Mom checked herself into a wellness retreat, which was code for rehab and PR damage control. Derek tried plea deals. Aunt Linda blamed everyone but herself. Meanwhile, Ethan handled everything with unnerving calm. Court hearings, asset recovery, legal cleanup, transferring business responsibilities. But he had responsibilities beyond the courtroom. And one night, he gathered us, me, Michael, and Madison, in the laundromat office. He laid out a plan. "I'm not replacing your parents," he began. "And I'm not asking you to forget what happened. But I'm not abandoning you either." Michael looked up. "Are we staying with you?" Ethan shook his head. "You're staying with Avery." My head snapped up. "What?" He smiled faintly. "You already stepped up. They trust you more than they trust me. And you need support too." "So you want them to move into my apartment?" I asked. He nodded once. "Temporarily. Until the court decides something formal." Madison wiped her eyes. "We'll be out of your way, I swear." For a moment I saw the girl who once mocked my uniform, now scared, humbled, and trying. I nodded. Okay. Not because they deserved it yet, but because I knew what it felt like to have no one. Living together was messy. Michael slept on the futon. Madison shared my bed. We fought over the shower, laundry detergent, and who finished the cereal at 3 a.m. But we also learned things. Michael could fix machines faster than the repair tech. Madison was surprisingly good with customers when she wasn't performing for an audience. And I was a better leader than I thought. We became a team. Not because we liked each other at first, but because we needed each other to survive. Mom visited after rehab. She knocked softly this time. When I opened the door, she looked smaller. Makeup-free, sleeves pulled over her hands, eyes swollen like she hadn't slept. "I came to say I'm sorry," she whispered. "Not to defend myself. Just to apologize." I waited. For not being there. For choosing a life that didn't include you. For assuming you were fine when you weren't. It didn't fix everything. But it was a start. I didn't hug her. I didn't slam the door either. We talked. Slowly. Carefully. Like two people learning each other for the first time. Healing isn't dramatic. It's quiet. Things changed at work, too. Ethan promoted me, not out of pity. I ran payroll. Ordered supplies. Managed staff. Learned business accounting until the numbers felt like a second language. One night, as we reviewed quarterly revenue, Ethan leaned back in his chair. "You know," he said, "your dad used to sit exactly where you are. Same stubborn posture. Same questions." I swallowed hard. "Do you think he'd be proud of me?" He didn't hesitate. "I think he already is." The future didn't come wrapped in a bow. There were court dates, therapy sessions, financial battles, public scrutiny. But there were also late-night dinner runs with Michael, study sessions with Madison on the laundromat floor, inside jokes with Ethan, a bed that wasn't a driver's seat. Eventually, the apartment didn't feel like a temporary hiding place anymore. Felt like home. The story doesn't end with revenge or riches. It ends with truth. I didn't get justice by hurting them back. I got it by building something stronger than what they took. I lost a family that never wanted me, and found one that chose me. I'm Avery Carter. I slept in my car once. Now I run the laundromat that saved me. And soon maybe more. Dad didn't just leave memories. He left a blueprint. And I intend to finish what he started.